What's up, everybody? You are in tune to a new version of Marvelous Talk with your main man Mod. I got my boy Dame in the house. What
Wakanda forever.
up? All right, and then we got my man Big G in the house. What's up, Big G?
What up? What up? What up? What up?
Man, look, as always, we've got a lot of Marvelous Talk that we need to get to. And of course, what's bigger in the MCU right now than WandaVision? I would like to say two things. First, if you are new to the channel, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe, because definitely you're going to get a lot of great content from all three of us. I mean, we're here for you, man. We're definitely making heads and tails of the things that we see in the MCU. Second thing is, this is heavy on spoiler talk. If you have not seen episode 7, please stop, hit pause, go watch up episode 7, come back, and then you can listen to what we got to say, because there's a lot here, man. And just, jumping into this week's episode, man, definitely there was a lot of anticipation because, Wanda, she had just started expounding the hex. Because, of course, the last episode, we saw Vision be in trouble. He was, outside of the hex, and she had to expand the hex to keep him back in it. So we start, and she's, definitely like what you would call a magic hangover. Definitely, she said here, she's, done some things that she regret. And, she's kind of talking about, hey, I think we've all been in that place where, we've made some mistakes, expanded our make-believe hex. So now she's talking and kind of telling the fact that she knows, she's cognizant of the fact that she has created a hex. And just an homage to the hangover situation, she's still laid here in the bed with her costume on from last night. Definitely from there, you jump downstairs and you see the kids playing. You see the twins playing, and they got the video games out. And all of a sudden, this is where we realize something has really went wrong. The reason why we realize that is that the kids' remotes start changing from different types of games to, end up to where they're holding Uno cards. Now, Dave, at this point, we see this happening.
Yeah.
Kind of walk me through about the next steps and what's going on in WandaVision.
So interesting enough, when she was in the bed, I don't know if you guys picked it up, but once again, we going back to the hex image. All on her blanket, there were hexagons. And another thing that I noticed too is that on her bed, she's got that paisley pattern on her pillow. Looks like somebody's eyes are watching her. So it's all indicative of a puppet master, somebody behind the scenes manipulating things. I personally think, referencing what you just talked about, Maud, with the kids and the video games glitching out, changing, I think this could be a direct result of her expanding the hex. It took so much out of her that now things ain't the way that was in the original setting. Like the way it was all within her grasp. But now, because it took so much out of her, which could be another reason why she's in the bed, because it took a lot out of her to expand, like they said, another 8 miles or so of the hex expanding the way it was. So it took a lot out of her, but I'm thinking we're seeing the repercussions of her powers maybe stretched in a way that she's never, mind you, she's created a whole environment, but to expand it even further. Right. And so I'm thinking that's why we're seeing the manifestations that we're seeing with the glitches. And it's just the beginning with the boys in the video game. It's gonna, as we're getting along, it's gonna get a lot worse. Big G, what's your take on it, man?
I would definitely say that there's something weird going on, and it has to do with the push or the pull of Wanda's powers. The issue or the thought process I have with those scenes is this is what was originally intended. Was the hex or the bubble or whatever they're inside of, was it supposed to be as big as it is and it expanded out that big? Did it have certain parameters, for certain settings, certain ways that it could only be controlled? And then by Wanda pushing it out further, did she do some damage to where things have got to be redone or reset? And so that's why now, because if you think about it in the natural, anytime you expand a program or you put too much pressure on a program or a setting and it gets stretched out too big, the first thing it does is starts glitching. It does things that it's not supposed to do. So eventually you're going to have to do something to come in, reset, rewind, make it to what it really should be. What y'all think?
Good point.
And I think that's a great point, man. I mean, honestly, and if you think about it, that's why she said she's going to punish herself. Self-quarantine, you know.
I thought that was so funny. She's like, I'm going to show myself.
I thought it was hilarious. And so as she comes down the stairs and, you know, Billy and Tommy are looking at her like, whoa. So she goes into the kitchen. And when she gets to the kitchen, she goes in the refrigerator and grabs some almond milk. But clearly, we see that almond milk changes when she sets it down. Now, two things about what we saw here is in the last episode, we saw the people that from Sword that got sucked into the hex turn to clowns. Yep. Now, if you notice and you look on the cereal box here, Dane, you see a clown. What did you think when you first saw that clown there, Dane?
Oh, I immediately thought of the people from Sword that got sucked into the hex. Because like you said, the majority of them are all circus beings of some sort, either clowns or the disappearing man or whatever that you see typically in a circus situation. But the interesting thing also on that box, and we talked about it briefly before we got on the show, as we would look preparing, to notice the snaps. Y'all see that snaps there? Could that be indicative of what happened with Thanos? So because once again, these are all traumatic events that she experienced. So maybe that's a play on that as well with the snaps image that's on the box.
I think so. What you think?
Yeah, I see it too, man. One thing I want to say is, you know, this is sort of like it's a throwback to the commercials. You know, the last commercial we saw was the shark with the Yo Magic deal.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, how you going to eat? How you going to survive? So now, you know, Wanda's then stretched this reality out. And now because she's then stretched out this reality, now her powers or her strength or somebody, it might not be Wanda, somebody's feeding off of these folks. And they done turn them into clowns and feeding and eating. And it's just their way to survive or to be able to just do new things inside this new world or new environment that they created.
Yeah, it's clearly it's clearly some manipulation that's going on, some strings being pulled, but we just have not seen who or what is at work. But it's clearly there. It's clearly there.
Right.
Yeah.
And then so you see, as we just kind of matriculate through the scene, you see her looking at the milk because it's changed from almond milk. But as she started pouring it, we saw something different. Now, you know, this missing, of course, we know during the milk carton era, there was always this missing kid on the back of a milk carton. But I'm gonna tell you, Kevin Feige and the Marvel writing staff, they don't waste too much. So putting that in the scene to me was important. We don't know why. I mean, I can only speculate to this point. You know, and Dane definitely brought up something off camera. We may get into that when we start talking about theories moving forward. But man, it was a shock. And then here we go into the actual theme song for this week. Dane, talk about that a little bit, man. With the theme song and how we introduced this week's version of WandaVision.
So once again, they've done an excellent job of the genres for each specific decade. They've done an excellent job. The cast have done a tremendous job of representing every genre of sitcom, all the way from when we started with the I Love Lucy type Dick Van Dyke vibe to now we're clearly in Office territory or Modern Family territory where there's a lot of, and an interesting name of the show specific episode is Breaking the Fourth Wall. You see that in a lot of these shows nowadays with The Office, like I mentioned, and also Modern Family, where they're specifically talking to the camera. They're talking directly to us. There was a lot of that in this episode. And so this definitely, with the theme song, it definitely was a feel of that, The Office, you know, all the imagery that you have at the beginning of The Office. But we talked specifically about the fact that you see one name consistently coming up. It's Wanda. it's interesting, fellas, that we don't see any mention of Vision. You know, all the other shows, it was Wanda and Vision. They all a happy family. This was nothing but Wanda, and kind of a play on the fact that she's taking this day off to herself to fix herself, to show herself. And so that was really interesting. But there was a specific point in the intro where it says specifically, who's doing this to you, Wanda? Who's doing this, Wanda? So, yeah, I know what you're doing, Wanda. So, once again, this manipulative voice, where is this coming from? You know what I'm saying? So that's what's really interesting with the theme song. This one, that this specific episode, it was all about Wanda and what she's up to.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I agree with what Dave's talking about. But there was one shot during that intro. Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but it caught my attention. You know, I'm a comic book head. So when I saw that 12, 28, 22, man, I almost dropped everything I was eating and trying to watch the show and pay attention at the same time. For those of the comic book heads, 12, 28, 22, of course, we all know Stan Lee's birthday. You know, anybody that's been following Marvel forever knows that. But also 12, 28, 22 is a reference to something that's so big that could be set up in this version of this TV show called The Pulse. And that's something that we're going to get into later on as far as maybe our theories and what we believe is actually what's going on, because the Pulse sets the pace for everything that could be tied to magic or tied to the next dimensions, or what Doctor Strange's title is, the Multiverse of Madness.
Wow. Wow. That's cool, man. And then, so once we get past the theme song for this week, here's the big reveal. Everybody's been speculating. We've all been speculating. We're like, man, who's it going to be? Who's it going to be? Who's it going to be? And then we get this. We get Major Goodner is the reveal of the engineer that was coming to help Wanda. Now, Dame brought up an interesting point, Dame. Talk to us about the point that you found as you were kind of researching this.
So as I was looking, I was trying to figure out, what is there a Major Goodner in Marvel lore? Is there, you know, I was doing some searching, and I came across an article that said specifically there was an illustrator for Marvel Comics named Kevin Goodner. And Kevin Goodner, he passed away sadly at the age of 48 on March 27th of 2019. He was only 48 years old. He had a stroke. But he was known as the illest, like, you know, when we say something is ill, he was known as the illustrator. And he was from Louisville, Kentucky. He did some amazing sketches. They did one specific sketch that he did to honor Colin Kaepernick, and it was literally Colin Kaepernick knocking out a Nazi. And so he's known for that in most recent years. But he did some awesome stuff for Marvel. You definitely want to go check him out. But he did some incredible things, man. And I think they did this in an honoring of him as an individual. So I thought that was really interesting. That's probably who the nod was to.
I think
for sure.
And when we sit back right after that, something that we noticed, we fall back to Vision waking up, and then Vision waking up. And I thought it was interesting about the strong man with the S on his clothing, still with an homage of sword, not just strong man, but it's carnival, you know. And then as he wakes up, the strong man is like, "Hey, look, you got someone waiting on you. You're late. You're late."
Hey, Maud, by the way, did y'all recognize who that was? Who the strong man was?
Talk to us.
That was the guy that brought Darcy the TV, the old school TV. That was the same guy.
Yes, it was.
Now, get this. That was a good catch, by the way, Dane. That was a good catch. See, you get a lot of good stuff on Marvelous Talk, man. We survive each other sometimes. You know, it is what it is. So we know that when Darcy was coming into the Hex, she was handcuffed. So now when we pick Darcy up again, bam, she is an escape artist, and she's tied to this old school, I don't know, kind of carnivalish fire truck.
Like a Model T or something.
Yeah, definitely. And so you see her tied up here, and it kind of hit me hard. Because I was like, wait a minute. We've been seeing this for weeks and was wondering what this was. But definitely now we've got an answer. This is why we say, people, this is why we say it. Marvel wastes nothing. If they do it, pay attention. Kevin Feige is wasting nothing. So here we are. We find her here. And then, of course, she gets to talking to Vision. And as she's talking to Vision, she starts to explain what's happening. And as she's explaining what's happening to Vision, Dane, what was going through your head during that point?
Well, she was clearly in the almost, we go back to the Geraldine version of Monica. That's where Darcy was, where her persona of who she was prior to being inside of the Hex was gone. This was a totally different individual. So she's, talking about her experience as an escape artist. That's the only, but it took something happen, like it happens before. Vision, with his lovely, whatever his new ability of touching people, it snapped her back to who she really was as Darcy. So, but prior to that was the same thing we saw with Geraldine when Monica got sucked into the Hex.
Hey, and I want to introduce an interesting fact that you guys might not have noticed. Did you notice that her color scheme and color pattern of her uniform matched that of Vision almost perfectly? And that Vision makes the reference during the conversation, something uncanny or something unnatural happened. We had this unspoken thing that went on between me and you that I know you can help me and I can help you. So he makes that reference. So all along, Darcy's character has been tied to the Vision throughout the whole program. So that was real interesting to me to notice that all her color scheme, color pattern, and everything was more or less matched Vision in some capacity.
Did y'all notice that Vision said something that I didn't pick this up on episode 6 when he was like forcing his way through, but he said that they locked eyes. I was like, that shocked me when he said it, because I didn't see that in the show. But apparently he saw her. Either she didn't see him, but he definitely saw her.
Yep. That was tied to in some type of way. I don't know if it's spiritual or mental or physical, but there's some type of tie between Darcy and the Vision. Even down, like I said, they made their color schemes and color patterns of the uniforms to match to a T.
Well, if anything, Big G, I think what she was, if you notice, she was an integral part in him getting to understand who he was before, because that was his big thing. Who am I? That's what he was trying to figure out. And she was that key to at least get him on the path of understanding where he came from.
Right.
And he asked that interesting question, y'all. That blew my mind. He goes, "Well, what about now?" Because she told him, "You straight up died." He's like, "Well, what's my point now? What am I now?" And she's like, I can't help you with that one. I don't know.
Right, for sure.
I thought it was an entanglement. That's what I thought. I thought it was entangled. Someone, they're not doing all this entanglement. Vision, you over 300 pounds, buddy. I mean, you can't be getting entangled all the time. Then the crazy thing is that you bring up this point where Vision is kind of asking, who am I? Like, what happened to me? I don't know anything of what happened. And he said something at this moment that kind of threw me back, because he said, okay, when he was asking about the whole thing and he started talking to Darcy and relating, one of the things that I thought was really interesting, well, first off, the fact that he was able to trust Darcy and really begin to start pouring his heart out to Darcy was crazy.
Yeah.
Right. And then he said to Darcy, he was like, wait a minute. Why is it that we had, because Darcy said, why do we have this light here? And he was like, man, I'm thinking that myself. And then all of a sudden you have a light crew come in, and then all of a sudden you have kids start coming across. And he was like, man, wait a minute. It's almost as if somebody don't want me to get home. Like, what's going on? What is this? So Vision started making some parallels to some things that was just happening outside of him. And now he's trying to close the gap on that whole thing, which brings the next piece is the commercial for this week. Right? So
off the hook.
Once we get to this commercial, everyone just sees this and we're like, okay, Nexus. Talk to us about the Nexus. What does this mean? We're familiar with these commercials because, of course, we got Yo Magic in the last one, which I thought was really a great play on words. But now we have this bland, hey, it's a Nexus infomercial type commercial, and it's about medicine.
Yeah.
But talk to us about this, man.
So my first take, and I know Sean's gonna have a even harder and deeper one than what I'm gonna say, but I'm gonna reference something that I even think Big G said a few episodes ago, that these commercials have almost been also a reference to the Soul Stones, and I clearly saw in this one the ether, because the ether has that ability to change, realities. It talked really a lot about this drug. You take the drug and it changes your reality. And then the fact that it's red, because if you remember the ether, that Infinity Stone was red. So that's what came to mind when I saw it, was that reference. The Yo Magic commercial, Big G had referenced last week that it was almost kind of an homage to the Soul Stone being yellow. So that's what came to mind, because I thought about what you said, bro, last week about those Infinity Stones, and that had been in my mind. But I think you can take it to a higher level than that with what you got to share.
Well, you guys know Kevin Feige wastes nothing. So I think this was almost like a 3-layered montage to what's actually going on in this reality of what we call WandaVision. First issue is that Nexus is a throwback or callback to the MCU. If you remember back in Avengers Age of Ultron, Tony Stark had to go to the Nexus to find the base program of what was Jarvis in order to restart him or recreate him or bring him back. So Jarvis more or less was a gatekeeper to our reality or our ability to be able to fight against what was going on. So that's Nexus number one. Nexus number two, as far as the comic book is concerned, is there are beings that are called Nexus beings. Nexus beings are people throughout the Marvel comic book reality that have the ability to look across different dimensions, different realities, different situations, different types of spheres during the time. So you have people that can talk all the way from comic book land of 616 all the way to Marvel 91128, which is an interesting fact. That was the truck of Monica Rambeau, was 91128. So anyway, they can talk across different dimensions, right? So I believe that this is a nod or point out to Wanda being a Nexus being. Wanda has the ability to see multiple different realities, pull, touch, push, grab, manipulate, turn things across all different dimensions, times, and spheres. So it even makes the point in the commercial, Nexus, you can either live in the reality that you live in, or you can move on and do whatever, because you can do anything under the influence of Nexus. The commercial actually tells you. So it does a lot of comic referencing, a lot of reality referencing, and once again, Kevin Feige just building out a world for all of us that love the MCU.
Yeah. And I'm saying, one of the things that I saw in there, Big G, man, is when we went into Life Aid, because that was the name of the store, Life Aid. And you had to really stop it to catch these in defense. If you're not really stopping and doing a whole bunch of start, you're gonna miss these because they
come out fast.
Out
fast.
So one of the things in the back of the pharmacy, you saw all of the bottles turn to where they said multi. So we're dealing
multiverse,
right? So they do a lot. Like I said, they do a lot of placing things in there so you can subtly catch them, and then it all makes sense in the very end, right? And so as we get back into the series, as we get back into this episode, Monica has already armed up. She's in the armadillo. She's ready. She's hitting it. But guess what? The armadillo ain't going through there. It's just not budging at all. It's not coming through. So it flips over, spits it out, and Monica gets this idea, was like, hey, I can make it through. I can make it through. So at this point, we're looking in, and I think all of us felt like, okay, we know you can make it through because you went in before, but
and came out.
she got sucked in that time. Let's see, if she can make it through again. And as she starts to go through, this happens. This happens. So Dane, talk to me about this happening, man.
Yeah, so she's clearly transforming. The thing what we know is that the time she went in, the time she came out, both of those affected her molecular structure. And so by her going in this third time is definitely, when they say third time's a charm. So this third time with her interacting with the Hex is definitely transformed her into what I believe and what I think all of us on this show will say. She's no longer just Monica Rambeau. She is now Spectrum. The reason why we arrive at that conclusion is once she comes through, she sees differently. She can see the actual light structure of what's going on inside of the Hex. And if you notice, she sees purple, she sees red, she sees a mixture of a bunch of different colors, all kind of combining, but that she didn't see that the first time she went through. And interesting enough, she's not changed into somebody else. She's still cognizant of who she is as Monica Rambeau. She's not Geraldine anymore. So something has happened. She has been transformed. It was really interesting if y'all noticed the voices that she was hearing as she was going through. We heard different voices. We heard her mother telling her, the potential that was in her. We heard Nick Fury saying, maybe you're gonna shine like your Auntie Carol. I thought all that was interesting. And then we finally hear Carol Danvers herself almost kind of giving her that christening of saying that you got the potential to be something big. So I just thought that was interesting. All those voices that she was hearing as she was going through, she's definitely no longer the same.
Yeah, I say for sure. One thing I caught on too is if you notice, as Dame was pointing out, that as she heard all those voices, it's almost like she was dealing with all the pain and anger and stress that she had dealt for up to that point. Because you guys got to remember, she's just now back from the blip, so it's like, okay, all of a sudden, all of her traumatic moments throughout her life all hit once. And it was like that and her ability just to push down and push through the Hex.
That's good.
And she comes out on the other side, she's full blown. She's reached her potential, or for lack of better words, for those who's waiting on the X-Men Easter eggs, she's evolved. She's evolved. She's become what she really can be. And it was all driven or drove by her facing trauma.
That's great. That's great.
And it goes to say what I know we're gonna get there eventually, but I just want to give a kind of a reference. Monica is dealing with everything the correct way, but Wanda, she's not. And the interesting thing, she tried to explain to the boys earlier in the episode. I think it was episode 4. It's like, well, this is just, you can't. They were like, you can bring them back. You could bring the dog back to life. And she's like, well, you just don't. You're not supposed to do that. So she's battling with her own morality, but Monica clearly showing the right way to deal with it. And like you said, Big G, it's all about pushing through it, and she's demonstrating that.
For sure.
Yeah. And I think Monica's a redemptive character inside of WandaVision. I really do. I think she is the one who is kind of leading the way to morality. And I think one of the reasons why she pushed through so hard is her love for Wanda and saying, hey, I relate to you.
Yes.
I know what it's like to lose somebody and you can't do nothing about it. You know what I mean? So her getting to the other side, I believe was motivated by the fact that I gotta go help Wanda. Which, she gets to the house, and when she gets to the house, Wanda wasn't really too happy to see, and kind of pushed her outside. And when we get outside, we see Wanda gearing up to take things over and handle her. And definitely kind of handled her a lot like a hostile person in a hostile environment. And, she had her up in the air. Then she finally lets her go. And then here we see, ode to her power again, you know, because she got new abilities. You know?
Yeah, that's like an ode to Tony Stark, the Iron Man, when he hit the ground first time. The ode to Tony Stark.
Landing. That's you got to have the hero landing. When you can fly, you got to have a hero landing.
Like your boy Deadpool, superhero landing. Yeah.
So we have something that we kind of skipped over, but this was happening in the background. We have Agnes, who came in, and while Wanda was having a bad day, who took the kids. You know, she took the kids and she had them over at the house. And I don't know about you guys, but I really feel like that this was her plan all along. Boys, to have the boys alone, because she's trying to push them. First of all, she's trying to keep pushing them to grow up. If you think about it, you could keep seeing it. You know, she sprayed the lavender on them in the very beginning. They grew. You know, definitely with the introduction of the dog, they can't have the dog till you're 10. They grew. You know, so this is her trying to push them in. What reason we don't know yet, not at this point. But she has the boys, and she's sitting here with the boys, and she hears. This is the moment exactly where she hears the commotion going on outside between Wanda and Monica. And guess who comes to the party at this point? Dame, what did you think when you saw this happen?
Oh man, I knew it was gonna happen. I mean, I just knew it. I mean, we had a situation where Monica was about to break through to Wanda. I mean, she was literally getting her to understand that, man, there was one phrase that Wanda said that blew me away. And I don't know if y'all caught it, but she said, don't let Hayward, the director, Monica said, don't let Hayward make you up to be the villain. And Wanda said, what if I'm already the villain? And I was like, wow, you know, so you see that darkness that's almost like she's like a walking piece of dynamite, man, that you light the fuse the right way, it's going to go off. But Monica was clearly getting to her human side. You know what I'm saying? Her still, whatever ability that's still in her to have reason and to have compassion, Monica was breaking through. And right at that moment, here comes Agnes. So that clearly was not by accident. In fact, Agnes was looking out the window when they was talking. So I just knew the next moment we're going to see her come up here. And interesting, another thing that once again blew my mind, she knew and understood that Monica was not the Geraldine who was in the Hex before. So she's like totally addressing her like a totally different individual. So I thought that was really interesting that she addressed her from that point, man. Go ahead, Big G. What's your take on it?
Well, I definitely saw it was almost like, well, let me say this. I'm a therapist by trade. So I saw the fight between two people trying to talk a person down or into. One being an antagonist, basically saying, hey, you can stay right where you're at. And another person trying to say, hey, look, this isn't right. We got to fix this situation and what's going on with you. So I saw that. I saw that battle. But the big interesting part was the postman showed up, you know, and then this guy has been playing a part all throughout all WandaVision. You know, he keeps showing up, and every time, yes, different eras and all whatever else, but it's the postman. So now this is the part that also threw me. Fellas, what was the name of the company that he worked for that he was delivering that was on his shirt?
I didn't see it, bro. I didn't see it.
Anybody remember what the name of the company he was working for and the logo that was on his hat? Y'all know I'm big on logos, right?
There was a rabbit on the hat.
Rabbit on the hat.
Definitely, it was like a magic term, hocus or something that he was working for. I don't know.
Absolutely.
Senior Scratchy.
No, it wasn't Senior Scratchy.
No, but I'm saying it's a reference. Could be a reference to him because that's Agnes's.
It was
pet.
a magical. Yeah, it was a magical reference. It was a reference like hocus pocus. This is what's going on, right? And he's delivering packages. So, and also they called in that same scene. They called back a person that we hadn't seen in a while. The lady that everybody even say she runs the whole ship. She's Doris? The one that runs the Dottie runs the neighborhood. Dottie runs everything. This is the first time we have seen Dottie in weeks.
That's true.
So that's letting me know, and just in my mind or my belief, that this was a pivotal moment in WandaVision, because you would not bring main players or people that we think are main players all back together at one point in time if there wasn't a struggle that was going on between two different things. Almost good versus evil. Monica, are you going to be able to fix Wanda, or is Agnes going to continue to just be able to be the friend or the confidant, that's been going on this whole time? So there's definitely a struggle. Yeah. And for this particular time, Agnes won. Agnes was like, well, yeah, let me get you, and let me get you over here. But then she turns very sinisterly and looks at Monica and says, go home. We don't need you here. Go home. Get away. Basically. So she's nice and kind on one hand, but on the other hand, you saw that sinister look on her face like, look, you need to get up out of here because I'm about to cause some problems. And that's what I picked up on. How about y'all?
It's great that you said that, Big G, because I don't know if you've ever seen like a movie where you got a big boss man who's kind of telling everybody else to calm down. So you saw all of the other players there, and they're watching as Wanda's dealing with Monica, like, okay, is this the time we're going to have to get out and fight? It almost feels like that because it's like, oh, are we ready? Is it about to go down? And then when Wanda was being led off by Agnes at this point, you see the postman to Big G's a nod to what he just said. The postman starts to walk right behind him, like, nothing happened. And this is the same guy that told the twins, hey, your mama not gonna let the dog get far. Why was he showing up then?
Right.
I'm really weird about this guy. It's something just.
Yeah, I don't trust him either.
Yeah. So now we flash into the house where at this point you have Agnes has brought Wanda into the house. Why did she take Wanda into her house, by the way? That was weird. Like, why didn't Wanda's house was wide open? Why we didn't take Wanda and go into Wanda's house? What was it so special that we had to go to yours? And where are the boys at? The boys were supposed to be here. So you see Wanda at this point sitting on the couch looking at these Teletubby kind of things, and they're
with some half-eaten sandwiches on the table.
And some milk.
Sandwiches and some milk, but you got some Teletubby, which didn't sound right for some odd reason. It just sounded different. And then she looks at the window, and as she's looking at the window, she sees this locust on the curtain. And then look at what's behind her, the rabbit.
Sir Scratch.
SS, Senor Scratchy. We still don't know what that means. And so at this point, we know that something weird is happening. And she asks her, where are the boys?
They're in the basement.
Who's going to the basement, Dane? I'm not going to the basement of a weird person's house. It's just not happening,
Right?
Hey, I'm calling for them. Y'all come up.
And fellas, did y'all pick up on how bright it was outside? And the moment that she entered Agnes's house, it was dark and sinister. Did y'all notice that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Go ahead, Mod.
Yeah, definitely, man. It's crazy. It just it made no sense to me, you guys. I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, okay, so they're showing us all these different angles. We see the TV with the Teletubbies. We see the locust on the window. What is a full-grown locust doing in somebody's house on the blind walking down? Yeah, it's just some weird stuff. And so as she goes to the basement, as we see Wanda going through the basement, we see a whole bunch of roots, and these roots are starting to come out of this room. So she goes down into the room, and then all of a sudden, she starts seeing stuff like this. Yeah, it starts looking like the basement of a house, but more like the indwelling of some crypt or something. It's weird. Now,
like a house of horrors.
Yeah.
This is the thing that really kind of threw me, because you see this pelican shape thing up here? It's a pelican shaped thing. Now, where have we seen that before in this episode or in this series? Where have we seen that? We've seen this pelican that was on the wall, or it's supposed to be a stork, but on the wall, come out and start walking around, and Wanda could not erase it with her powers.
Mm-hmm. And that's when the babies came. That's when the babies came.
The babies came. So there's something about these.
It's two of them there too. That's interesting because it's two of them there.
Yeah, it's something about these relics, man, that I just think is so deep. G, talk to us about relics, man. Talk to us about relics in the Marvel Universe.
Okay, so remember, Kevin Feige has already told us that WandaVision is a direct tie to two upcoming movies, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness and Spider-Man 3. So if you relate back to Doctor Strange as far as relics, we've already been told by Doctor Strange that there are some, throughout the movie, that there's some magic that just cannot be contained or controlled by normal people. They have to be inside of what they call relics or ancient artifacts, and they live or dwell like the staff of the living tribunal, the Volanting Boots of Voldemort, Doctor Strange's cape, the Eye of Agamotto, those are different things which actually held the Time Stone. So relics pick and choose different things to dwell their magic inside of. So now we go down inside this basement, and this basement is filled up with relics, including the most powerful relic that we've seen so far in this series, the Darkhold. So any of you guys that's been following Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that follow Doctor Strange, you realize and know that there's books throughout the MCU that are so powerful that they have the ability to open up different gates and different realities. This particular thing, the Darkhold, is referenced back to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. because it was the book or the spell that was cast to use to bring Ghost Rider into that reality of the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So we actually starting to get layout for the multitude or multiverse of madness, to where you're going to see different characters pulled into this reality, because you just don't have a relic like that that's actually glowing, which means somebody did something to it. There's some type of enchantment that's going on right now. And like I said, the Darkhold, even from a comic book standpoint, the Darkhold is a portal that they bring ancient, super strong, godlike beings from one reality into another. So why do they have the Darkhold right now? And even more so, why is it in Agnes's basement?
That's the bigger question, right? That's the bigger question. It's in Agnes's basement. So up until this point, we think Agnes is the kooky neighbor, the person that just pops up. And Dane, what do we find out in this next scene and the next reveal? We find out this, right?
Yep. We hear the door slam shut, and she turns to Wanda and says, "Hello, it's Agatha Harkness. Nice to finally meet you. You thought she was the only magic gal in Westview, but no, I'm here to let you know I'm on the scene now." And then we get the monsters' take on who Agatha is, and we see, once again, as it's saying there in the title, it's been Agatha all along. And you see a whole montage of all the things happening with her behind the scene, the For the Children chant, the whole thing with Pietro knocking on the door, or is it Pietro knocking on the door? The situation with Herb also, when Herb was going crazy, glitching out. It was all Agnes at work. And then she even at the end sent even the voice that Wanda heard when she was doing those shows. I said, wait a minute, you're not supposed to talk back. It was her. It was Agatha. And then she gives us the big reveal at the end, saying, I even killed Sparky too, the dog. So she's been working overtime, and man, that actress is doing a fine job on that role, man. That laugh at the end, I just had to rewind that about 3 or 4 times because she got it down, bro. She's straight evil.
Right. And for you guys that don't know, those that are just now tapping into this whole Marvel experience, Agatha Harkness is one of the most, I'm not going to say she's the most well-known, but she's one of the most pivotal characters in the Marvel comic back lore concerning the Fantastic Four, concerning Wanda and Vision, concerning Wanda and Vision's children, concerning Magneto, concerning the High Evolutionary. This lady has been around for you guys to know moving forward. And it's sort of an Easter egg I'm going to throw you. She's been around for 10,000 years. She pre-exists Atlantis 500 years. And for you guys that don't know, Atlantis is the place where the Submariner dwells. So she predates Atlantis' existence by 500 years. So Agatha Harkness is a huge, huge character. This lady is going to be pivotal, I think, moving forward in all areas of the Marvel Phase 4, maybe even in the Phase 5.
I mean, yeah, and then not to mention the fact that we know that she was around during the Salem witch trials. I mean, you know, yeah, she's old. She's old as dirt, or Methuselah, as my grandmama used to say. She couldn't say Methuselah, she said Methuselah. So she's old. Let's put it like this: she's old, and she's been around in a capacity just watching things and overseeing things, and this is her true nature. So we found out that this was a gag.
Yeah.
We found out that she was playing, and that was really her real personality. We find out that that was really a real personality and a real scene. So here we are. This is who she really truly is. Her name is Agatha Harkness. And if you think about it, Agnes, the first part of Agatha, the last part of Harkness. So you put those two names, what you got? Agatha Harkness. You got Harkness, right?
Yeah.
And so moving forward, man, so now we've got this big reveal. We found out that she's just dirty as all get out. That's the end of WandaVision, so we think, right? But we did see Monica Rambeau follow the two as they start leaving, and we're wondering what's happening with her. And then all of a sudden, we see Monica go, and she opens up the basement, because you remember they're in the basement. And this is what she sees.
Mm-hmm.
She sees all of this purple root, you know, but remember, she can see differently now, as Dame told you, with her new abilities. She's seeing everything. Isn't it interesting how everything is about sight and perception in WandaVision?
Yeah, yeah.
It's interesting because Scarlet Witch can mold or shape your perception. She can make you see things. Vision. Well, of course, we don't have to explain the word vision. Operation Cataracts. So it's all about the way that things are being seen and realities being warped, which, you know, kind of leads to some of our Easter eggs, and we're going to get to it after this last scene. The last scene you see, of course, this guy.
Pietro, or whoever he is.
Whoever he is.
We don't know who he is.
Snooper's going. He tells us Snooper's going to snoop, and then it fades to black. But
Dang, exactly.
Yeah.
Gonna snoop. What does that mean, man? Like, what are you talking about? I don't get it.
It sounds like an undercover agent to me. He's working for somebody. Either he's in cahoots with Agnes. Maybe this is the Ralph character that we've been talking about. Maybe this is her son. We don't know, because Agnes does have a son in the comics named Nicholas Scratch. So could be him. We don't know, but obviously it's somebody. By the way, everyone that's watching, this is our first post, or I would say mid-credit scene that we've had of the entire season. So if you've watched the show and you've not watched it to the end past the beginning of the credits, keep watching, because this comes later. Because a lot of people didn't realize that they had some stuff that this is the first mid-credit scene that we had since the show started. So y'all should watch the entire show every week, because you never know when they're gonna put something like this at the end. So, but yeah, old Pietro or whoever he is, man, that dude just, he definitely let her know I'm watching you. Now, what he's gonna do to her is what's interesting. What they exchange after that, what's gonna happen.
And don't forget, also, that we are now on episode 7. We've been told that there's only 9 episodes. We still have not found out who Jimmy Woo's missing person is.
Yep.
We don't know who could this be it? We don't know. There's a lot that they've got to pack up in a couple of episodes. So you guys get ready for one heck of an ending, because the end ride, or the last 2 episodes are going to be unreal.
I'm telling you.
You know, and think we've had this in the trailer for WandaVision. You can go back and watch it. In the trailer, we have scenes where Wanda is saying, "This is our home," and we have another scene where Vision's saying, "Let's fight for it."
Yeah.
So we haven't seen her actually fly through the city. That's in the trailer. You know, so there are a lot of scenes that are coming. I think, just myself, I think you're going to see more action in these last 2 episodes than you saw in the very beginning. I have to go back to when we started Marvelous Talk. We told you to be patient. The reason why we said be patient is we've seen this before, but it's been so long ago that you didn't notice, you guys. Think about this. Iron Man 2, Captain America, all of those movies were so very dry, and it took time to actually develop. But by the time we got to Winter Soldier, the action was fast and furious. I mean, even Avengers, the first Avengers, it was still kind of slow, and then it picked up and you got the action in between. But when we got to Winter Soldier, Age of Ultron, it was on and cracking. Everything was just like pow, 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 pow. You saw it, but we had to build to that. So I just want you to know that we're getting to a place where we're introducing characters. We're introducing a whole bunch of people. And Dame has brought a very valid point up, and I'm going to let him elaborate on it as we're hitting our closing thoughts. You know, we all talk comic book, and that's us. You know, you see the comic book in our background. You know that we're real familiar with the comics. That's not everybody. And I think Kevin Feige does a great job at balancing the comic book head and the enthusiast, and also just the regular looker on. They're just somebody who's picking up Marvel movies and they just like them because of the superhero element and the characters. So he does a great job of balancing those 2 worlds and those 2 elements. So you're not going to see a ton of new people, but you're going to see some new people. You're going to see some people moving forward who you're familiar with because of the simple fact that we're trying to build a story. But guaranteed, and I'm done after this so you guys can go, Dan, guaranteed you're going to see some new people you've never seen before, but you will be familiar with.
Absolutely. Absolutely. One thing that I think is going to be interesting is in regards to Agatha Harkness, is how did she get into this world? Like, what is her? She has to have a motivation, and she has to have a reason for her being in this world. And so that's the part of the story that I really want to see unfolded, is what caused her to want to, number one, be manipulating Wanda. There has to be a reason behind it. And so that's the big story. I think that's what's really going to be interesting, is because before this episode, she was just like Maud said, she was just kooky neighbor, didn't trust her, but didn't know what her MO was. But now that the page has been turned and we see who she really is, what is her motivation? What caused her to want to say, I'm using Wanda to get what I want? So that's the part to me that I'm like, I'm just curious, man. I want to know what's her big story.
Yeah, I for sure am going drawing in on that point, but I'm looking at it also from the other side too, because remember, this is like the first episode that we hardly saw anything of what was actually going on outside of the Hex. All we know is that the director said, get the weapons ready. We're going to start the attack or start the whatever, right? So I really want to know who this guy is, man. Kevin Feige in the MCU is not going to waste a character in his role. I don't think they've ever done it before with anybody where they wasn't somebody, or there wasn't a spin on who the person actually was.
Did you
So
notice
I really
Big
want to
G?
know. Say again?
Did you notice Big G how nonchalant he was about it too?
Yeah.
I
He
mean,
was like, this dude is sinister beyond. You know, like if they were ever setting up a backdrop to create an earthbound evil guy, this is it. And you know, I got my theories on, you know, I've been saying all along that I think this dude is the Grim Reaper. You know, but I believe it, you know, and there's a lot of things I could take up a whole nother hour and just give you the Easter eggs all throughout I've saw throughout the episode to believe, because this guy is the Grim Reaper. But one thing we know for sure, and what I'm anxious to see, is the whole ideology about Vision. Remember that they already told us that they've already chopped Vision up. They've already tried to weaponize him. Heck, they even changed the name of Sword to Sentient Weapon, you know, which is something completely different. They tell you that they changed it to Sentient Weapon, right? So, but
crazy to me, right? Because if when Monica's mother was in charge, it had a different direction. So maybe Mr. Tyler killed Monica's mom.
Could be.
No,
Could be. We've seen this before in the Guardians of the Galaxy. We found out the ego offed Peter Quill's mama, you know, with some cancer, you know. So
good point.
It could be.
Yeah.
You know, but like I said, I'm anxious to see what is really going on with this whole Sword and how deep is this guy in, you know, because like I said, my thing is, okay, he's the Grim Reaper, so we got a whole nother expanded or layout of expanded universe that we possibly could see. Because Sword, I believe there's no doubt in my mind that moving forward, Sword is a huge part of the Marvel Phase 4 and Phase 5 era. And so they're laying the building blocks of characters that can be introduced through Sword. You know, starting with the whole reason, why does he want Vision's body back? Why was he only tracking Vision? Why did we only get a certain amount of scenes from this guy over the last 2 episodes? What is really going on with Sword that they're not telling us? Because it's now misdirection away from Sword and now into the Hex. So Kevin Feige, like, you know, I've been saying he's a genius all along. He's showing us layers on top of layers.
And here's the thing. So we got to put movies together. And in conclusion, we have to put movies together because they all go together. He doesn't waste anything, right? End of Spider-Man, Far From Home. What do we see?
Yeah.
You see,
Ultron.
You see Nick Fury on the that was that movie. You see Nick Fury on a sword ship, right? Why is Nick Fury taking control of Sword? You got
he was well, obviously he was at the episode where they introduced Sword at the beginning. There was a reference saying that her mom, Maria, and Nick both were instrumental in starting Sword. So we haven't seen Nick's involvement in it yet, so we don't know. But yeah, that's another side of the coin that we still need some answers to, is his involvement in it and where he's going with it. We know that he's going to be under that Secret Invasion show that's going to be there. So once again, I personally think that Mr. Hayward could possibly be a Skrull. So I don't know. That could be another side of, I don't know, man. That's a good point to bring up. I don't know Nick's involvement because we haven't really seen it other than that little glimpse they gave us at the end of Far From Home.
And then think about this. He asked, well, why can't Dr. Strange do it? Peter said, why can't Dr. Strange? Well, he's away. He's dealing with something. Remember, Far From Home happens 8 to 9 months after Endgame.
Right.
So WandaVision would have happened before.
Right.
So
good point.
Already came out of this whole thing. So if we're looking at the timeline and we're putting things together, you have to understand some of these answers are right in front of us and others are being pieced together. And it's like this. We have all of the pieces, but we don't have the whys to make these things go. So in other words, we got the gun without the bullets. You know what I mean? We don't understand. We don't have the mechanism that's making the thing go. And I think I know in these last 2 episodes, we're going to get it tied up and we're going to have a bow ribbon and a bow around this whole thing. But man, you know, I thank everybody for tuning in with us again. Another episode of Marvelous Talk. I'm going to tell you, man, we have had a great time just breaking everything down for you. Make sure that if you've enjoyed the program, you hit like and subscribe. Tell your friends about it, because we here for you. And we ain't doing nothing by having all this marvelous talk.
And by the way, if you have any questions or anything that you might want to share or see us talk about on the show, put those in the comments as well, man. We want to hear from you.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
And for your boy Mod, your boy Dane, and Big G, we out of here. To the next episode of Marvelous Talk.